Happy Kokomo Friday. Welcome to Fantasy Baseball Today. I am Chris Howers here with Scott White on Friday, September 5th. I got that right. We are recapping Thursday's action. We're going to talk a little Week 25 preview, and we're going to see if I can successfully overcome my technical deficiencies and do a Scotty doesn't. Because Frank's got like little buttons he can press, and he's got like a yellow button and a red button. I don't have any buttons.
You don't have buttons.
But I think I've got a way to make it work.
You didn't actually say what we're doing. It's Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty
right?
doesn't know. Sorry. Okay. We didn't do it last week. I know there was an uproar. People were rioting in the streets, so I'm gonna try to do it this week and see if I can make that happen. I make no promises about my abilities to do anything.
You could just
successfully. I could, but it's less. I think I have a fun way. I think I have a fun one for the people watching on YouTube as well. Okay. So thanks for joining us on YouTube if you're here live. Thanks for watching the stream if you're not. And Scott, let's get to Thursday's recap. You want to kick us off with an oh my goodness gracious player?
Oh my goodness gracious for Thursday. I'm going to go with Ryan Pepiot, who no-hit the Cleveland Guardians.
Yes, he did.
Over 5 innings. But it was a good start.
He pitches for the Rays, so.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your point there?
The 5 innings thing.
Oh, they just let their pitch. Okay, I see what you're. Okay.
I love when a joke lands.
So it was a good start, obviously. 5 no-hit innings. He had 15 whiffs on 90 pitches. Here's the thing, though. This was no hits in 5 innings. The previous start was 1 hit. And the previous start before that was 1 hit. So now across 3 starts, Ryan Pepiot has allowed a combined 2 hits. And what the 2 most recent of those starts have in common, beyond just not allowing many hits, is him really leaning into the 2 pitches that we know to be good for Ryan Pepiot. The fastball, he threw it 60% of the time in this one. And the changeup, he threw 20% of the time of this one. So he threw them a combined 80% of the time. And in Ryan Pepiot's previous start, let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Nope, because I misspelled his name. He threw them both a lot too, is the point.
It's spelled just like it sounds.
Yeah, I know. It's just hard to think of the spelling of someone's name while you're also trying to think of words to say. I pulled it up now. So if you want to know, in his previous start, he threw his fastball and his changeup a combined 85% of the time. So 85% last time, 80% this time. Normally it's less than that because he's mixing in other stuff that isn't as good. So Ryan Pepiot really leaning into his last 2 into the best 2 pitches, his last 2 starts, allowing basically no hits. And we've seen that fly ball rate, which was very high last year. We've seen it tick up over the course of this season. It started low, and maybe Swamp Burner Field won't be such a problem for him. But it's gotten back to normal. This is the other side of that. Yes, high fly ball rate means more home run risk, but it can also mean more hit prevention, particularly if your pitches are really effective, which they've been for Pepiot lately. I know Pepiot is universally rostered, and so I don't know that there's anything actionable here, but 2 hits over his last 3 starts combined is interesting enough to kick off the show, I think.
It's impressive for sure. And looking ahead to 2026, and I think we're at the point now where I think we got to mix them both, right? You're just starting Ryan Pepiot. Looking ahead to next year, he's basically settled in the last 2 seasons as a 3.60 ERA pitcher. I think it was 3.59 last year and 3.60 or 3.60 this last year, 3.59 so far this year. This does feel like one where you should probably just take that at face value. Like that's probably what he is, and that's good. Strikeout per inning, good whip. But
mid-3s ERA, good whip, yeah.
If they do move back into Tropicana next year, which I was thinking about that today. I haven't really heard anything.
I think
one way or the other.
They're selling that. We know they're selling the team. I don't know how long that process takes. And so I'm sure current ownership isn't going to do anything about Tropicana. So, yeah, I would expect I don't know, obviously, but I would expect they're playing in the same place next year.
I would guess that as well. But if they do move back to Tropicana next year, there could be a little bit of like very mild breakout appeal for Ryan Pepe. He's going to be 29 years old. I don't think it's a situation where, like coming into this season, there was some hope that Ryan Pepe would take a big step forward, and he's just kind of held steady. I don't think you should expect a step forward next year, but with how fastball dependent he is and with the way we know fastballs play better at Tropicana than they do in other places, I do still think there is a little bit of breakout appeal for Ryan Pepe in 2026 if they are back in Tropicana Field, which might be a pretty big if, but I do think that's worth pointing out. I will transition over to my oh my goodness gracious player from Tuesday. And I think there are a couple of options I could have gone with. I'm going to go with Luke Keeschel, who we talked a lot about when he first came back from the IL, and then the conversations have kind of petered out. He's still, for the most part, hitting very well. He went 4 for 5 with 2 runs, an RBI, and a steal. I think it was 4 singles on Thursday, and that pushes him up to a 322 line for the season with a 414 on base, a 504 slug, 4 homers and 9 steals. He stole another base on Thursday. 4 home runs and 9 steals in 34 games. That's like a 20 homer, 40 steal pace. And the underlying numbers aren't quite as good as the actual production because
they're not going to be.
Luke Keeschel's probably not a 900 OPS bat.
Well,
is he an 800 OPS bat? I feel pretty good about that.
It's funny you say that because I actually came out just here on Thursday with my bold predictions for 2026 article, and we did record a podcast for that played on Labor Day. But I came up with some new ones for the article, and one of them was Luke Keeschel leads second baseman in OPS next year, which the big hurdle there is obviously going to be Ketel Marte, who you can basically pencil in for a 900 OPS. And it's obviously stretching what's realistic for Luke Keeschel. Like bold predictions, that's kind of the whole point. But guy had a 420 on base percentage in the minors last year. It's over 400 now in his first taste of the majors. And that's the O in OPS. Like you can go a long way with a high on base percentage. And I think Keeschel, I think we can pencil him in for that at least. As far as
for me, it's the power.
Yes. As far as the power, he doesn't hit the ball that hard. This is known. But what I am encouraged by here in Luke Keeschel's rookie season is he's been as effective as he is. 4 home runs now, right? 4 home runs in 136 plate appearances. So a little behind the pace we hope for, but he's been very effective overall, and the power has been existent at least. He's done that in spite of having a pull air rate of 16.2%, very average pull air rate. It was over 20% in the minors last year. And that's one of those things that I feel like can be slower to come around for a hitter when they reach the majors, is just hitting the ball at the most optimal angles. Keeschel's power depends on that, but we've seen him do it before. And so I think that's going to get better as this goes along. Now, is he a 30, 35 homer guy like Ketel Marte? No, but not, if he's a 400 OBP guy or close to it, and he's getting to 22 home runs, something like that, then he's going to be really, especially since he's such a prolific base stealer. I mean, one of my bold predictions on the podcast was Ozzie Albies rebounds as a top 3 second baseman next year. I got to thinking about the strides Bryce Terang has made with power this year. I got to thinking about how much I like Luke Keeschel for next year. And, of course, Ketel Marte's still there.
You're pushing down 5?
I don't know how Albies is going to get in the top 3. Because, of course, then there's still Jose Altuve and a host of other players that could be. So I chickened out and made it top 5.
Jazz should be second base eligible next year,
yes,
right?
Jazz will be second base eligible. I chickened out and said top 5. Ozzie Albies rebounds is top 5.
Who would you rather have for 2026? Luke Keeschel or Jordan Westberg?
Keeschel.
Who would you rather
Westberg's
have?
good, but more limited.
Luke Keeschel or Michael Garcia?
I think Keeschel. I think.
Okay.
It's a close call, but
I think
more
if you're taking him over those guys, then I think you got to rank him as a top 5 guy next year. Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so we know Ketel Marte,
Jazz Chisholm,
Jazz Chisholm,
Jose Altuve
will have. Yes, all 4 of those will have to rank higher.
Then you get to like Jordan Westberg, Michael Garcia, Xavier Edwards, Nico Horner.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Albies is in the discussion, I think, particularly if his September continues the way his second half has gone. But look, I'm hoping I can rank Albies lower because I want to be able to get him at a discount next year.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Luke Keeschel is in that top 5 discussion for next season. So,
yep,
that's a heck of a thing for a guy who didn't really have there was some hype around him, but there wasn't a ton coming into the season.
He was a personal favorite of mine. I think I got him in my top 35 preseason prospects, but yeah, he kind of flew under the radar overall.
And then do want to note before we take our first break that the Rays are planning on playing at Tropicana Field in 2026. They released their schedule last week along with the rest of the league, and it does have them returning to Tropicana Field. They began working on the Trop in July. And so, yeah, it looks like they're going to be back. So that's good news for Ryan Pepio. It does introduce just a little bit of uncertainty for their hitters, and I think that's most notable for Junior Caminero just because he's by far the most notable hitter on their team. I tend to think it doesn't matter for him. It's just a variable where there are some guys who really struggled at Tropicana Field.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. There have been some concerns about the batting eye raised there specifically, and that's a variable that's very difficult to account for because I don't know how it's going to equally affected by it. But I have
Adames was terrible there.
I have seen floating around on baseball Twitter the last couple days after Caminero got to 40 home runs. It's fake because look at his home away splits. Well, for home runs, it's pretty much dead even. He has a much lower batting average on the road, but because that park isn't necessarily geared for batting average, is more geared for home runs. I think that's just kind of one of those things that happened.
Yeah,
I don't think it's anything to take seriously, the home away splits for Caminero, but yeah, we don't know how that batter's eye at Tropicana is going to affect him specifically.
It shouldn't change your outlook for him, but it should be like I'm off the top of my head, I don't know who it would be. Like, I think he's going to rank well ahead of Eugenio Suarez, even though they're having very similar seasons.
I mean, Frank's already decided Caminero clearly the number 2 third baseman for next year, and in points leagues, I think Manny Machado could still threaten that, but in categories, I think that's right.
So,
I think you got to automatically slot Caminero too.
Is Jazz
will be third base eligible still.
I think that's going to be a really tough call. And if you want to say that's fair, but if you want to say contract year, guys tend to play more those nagging injuries, they tend to play through them.
Yeah.
I
tend not to hope to that. Like I don't want to pin many hopes on my second round pick. You know what I'm saying? Like yes, maybe that could happen. Maybe Jazz Chisholm stays healthy because he's motivated by a contract.
Okay, let's say it's not that. Let's say it's Nick Kurtz versus Junior Caminero with your second round pick next year.
Frank brought that up, and I said
you might be able to say, well, I just don't know how the Trop is going to affect Junior Caminero, and that could be a tiebreaker. It shouldn't be a 10% change in how you view Junior Caminero, but it introduces just a little bit of uncertainty where maybe it's not quite worth drafting right at Junior Caminero's ceiling. I think that's probably the way to look at it, but we'll have a whole off season to discuss that kind of stuff. We have a whole day of stuff to talk about still. So we're going to take a quick break on FBT. We'll be right back.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
And we're back on Fantasy Baseball Today. I'm Chris Towers here with Scott White. Let's talk some news and notes. And the big one, the youth movement continues apace in Queens. The Mets are promoting Brandon Sproat from AAA to make his MLB debut Saturday in Cincinnati. And if you've been following prospects, especially if you were following prospects last year and then for some reason decided to stop this season, you might be surprised that Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong beat Brandon Sproat to the majors, because this time last year, we were talking about maybe Brandon Sproat getting a late season call up. And the problem is his first 5 months at AAA were just an absolute disaster. He was terrible there last season. He was terrible there in his first 15 starts this season, putting up a 5.95 ERA and a 4% K- walk rate in his first 15 starts. If you're not familiar with K- walk rate, that's bad. You want higher than 4%. But since July 1st, Brandon Sproat has a 30% strikeout rate and 8.5% walk rate. You do the math in your head. That's 21.5% K- walk rate. That's very good. And he has a 2.72 ERA in that stretch, which helped rebuild his prospect value and I think helped convince the Mets to call him back up. Now, I think your expectations for Brandon Sproat should clearly be lower than they were for Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong when they got called up. He just seems to be in a different class as a prospect than those two guys now. We've seen the downside. He throws hard, but it's kind of a dead zone fastball. It doesn't have any really remarkable characteristics outside of the velocity. He's got a very deep arsenal: sweeper, changeup, curveball, slider, in addition to the fastball and sinker. It's a legit 6-pitch mix. I haven't seen a good explanation for why he was so bad and why he's been so much better since.
Well, it depends how basic you want the explanation to be. The control has been a lot better during this turnaround. And Brandon Sproat has been, he's always been a ground ball pitcher, but he's taken it to another extreme this year. It looks like he's mixed in more sinkers, not so reliant on the four-seamer. So his ground ball rate at AAA is 53%. It's very high.
Yeah.
And minor league defenses famously are not as good as major league defenses. So I wonder how much of that was just because the contact quality is 87 average exit velocity against Brandon Sproat, very low. And it's basically exactly the same as last year. So he's giving up just as much weak contact, just more of it on the ground. And so how much was he getting burned by that? In addition to having too many walks, that's probably the single biggest issue. And that has clearly improved. I think he's still really good. So you gave the numbers since July 1st. You go back 11 starts, it's a 2.44 ERA for Brandon Sproat and 10.7 K per nine, in addition to being a really high ground ball guy, which is normally a good thing. So I'm pretty excited about this. I don't know exactly how the Mets are going to configure their rotation beyond this turn for Sproat, because he becomes the seventh man in the rotation, right? But with at least three candidates who could be removed. There's a case to remove them. Seven. Those being Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes, and Sean Manai. You can make the case to remove any or all of them. And so it might depend on how Brandon Sproat does in this debut. Obviously, you can't expect him to live up to what Nolan McLean has done, because who does? And Jonah Tong was the best pitcher in the minors this year, so you shouldn't expect that either. But I do think Brandon Sproat is good, and I think he could be impactful down the stretch, depending how this first start goes.
And it is not an ideal landing spot in Cincinnati. That's not a great lineup, but it is a tough home park. But he does keep the ball on the ground. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we got a good start out of Brandon Sproat. So that's certainly one to keep an eye out. And for fantasy, for waivers, I think if you're running your waivers before Sunday, I think it's worth throwing a couple buck bid in there and seeing what he looks like. Because if he looks great, then there's going to be a lot of big bids on Sunday, especially because that's going to happen right before the waiver wire runs. So people are going to be very excited if he looks good, and there's a very good chance he does. Moving on, Pablo Lopez will make his return from the IL Friday. He's been out since early June with that shoulder injury, but has 14 strikeouts and 11 1/3 innings on his rehab assignment and got up to 82 pitches in his most recent start. I'm just throw him in my lineup, right?
I'm sorry, I missed the name.
Pablo Lopez.
Pablo Lopez. After this long of a layoff, a shoulder injury, I'd prefer to play it safe. It's not the biggest gamble in the world if you want to stick him in your lineup right away, especially since he looked good on his rehab assignments, since the stuff pretty much seemed intact. It's fine if you want to do that, but ideally I'd play it safe.
All right. Jazz Chisholm was removed from Thursday's game with contusions on both of his knees. Francisco Alvarez. This is shocking. He's coming off the IL tomorrow on Friday. He fractured his pinky last Wednesday and is playing through a UCL injury in his thumb from late August. But I don't know. I guess they feel like he's good enough to play. It's really frustrating because it looked like he was really figuring it out after getting called back up from AAA. He was awesome at AAA. The 20 or so games that he played before the injury, he looked great. I think the best we've ever seen from Francisco Alvarez. And so I hope this doesn't derail him, but my expectations are, frankly, pretty low.
Just because he's playing through injury, right?
Yeah, just because he's playing through injuries to two different fingers now. Seth Lugo was placed on the IL with a lower back strain. Maybe that explains why he's been so bad lately. 7.51 ERA, 175 WHIP since the All-Star break. Go ahead and drop him. I don't think you're going to regret that, even if he comes back, given the way he's pitching. Steven Kolek was recalled to take his place on the roster. O'Neal Cruz has sat out the past 5 games against lefties. So the Pirates seem to be leaning fully into him being a part-time player, or at least a platoon player. And look, he's hitting like 113 against lefties this season. So it's hard to argue too much with it. I think it's kind of silly to do that this late in the season. Why not just keep throwing him out there and see if he can figure it out? But whatever. I guess O'Neal Cruz is just a platoon bat now. Mike Trout returned after missing 2 games from a skin infection.
That is silly for the Pirates, especially.
Yeah, because again, nothing to play for. You had nothing to play for in April, and you were playing against lefties. What's changed?
And who else are you going to pin your hopes to but O'Neal Cruz?
Yeah. Connor Griffin next year.
Maybe. And obviously some pitchers, but I mean, hitter-wise.
Yeah. The Dodgers DFA'd Alexis Diaz and optioned Alex Freeland to AAA to add Ben Rortvedt to the active roster. That is because Will Smith will be out of the lineup through the end of this weekend, it sounds like, after having a hand concussion in Wednesday's game. He is expected to avoid the IL, so let's hope that is the case.
Hand contusion.
Hand contusion. Okay. Did I say concussion?
You did say hand concussion, and
that'd be bad.
My initial thought was, that's something you could do to your hand? Like, I assumed you had it right, but then I was like, no, he said the wrong word.
You should never assume I had it right. That's on you for assuming I had it right.
Yeah.
Max Muncy started his minor league rehab assignment Thursday at AAA. It was delayed a few games with an illness, but I think he's going to be back probably early next week. Are you just starting him next week if he's back on Monday?
Oh, gosh, Chris, I can't process as fast as you talk. I'm used to Frank repeating the guy's name before I have to answer.
Max Muncy of the Dodgers.
Yes. Yeah, ever since getting the glasses, he's been amazing, and third base is weak. And I'm sure if you've stashed him, it's because you have a need at third base. So go ahead and start Muncy.
All right, Shohei Ohtani will make his next start Monday against the Rockies. He was scratched from his start Wednesday with an illness. It's not clear if the Dodgers will return to a 6-man rotation with Emmett Sheehan remaining in or not. I would guess yes on that one. Carter Jensen was the DH in his first MLB start. That's the catcher for the Royals. So that's mildly interesting and also not a great sign for Jack Caglione the rest of the way if they're going to split time.
And they were saying that. I don't have the quotes in front of me, but they basically said basically they want to have Jack Caglione around because he can only help, but they're not just going to turn over a job to him like they did the first time around. That was the gist of what they said.
Again, I don't think it really makes sense. They don't have a ton to play for the rest of the season, but
they're competing still. They're in the race, right?
I guess.
Unless they've
their
really
playoff
crashed here
odds
recently.
have been in the single digits. They have a 10% chance of making the playoffs according to FanGraphs. So I guess they're still in it, but
yeah, they're as in it as the Rangers are.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think they will, but they have to
No, that's
try.
a fair point. They have something to play for. Yeah. Haesung Kim got his first start since coming back from the IL on Thursday. Jackson Chourio returned to the lineup as the DH after missing Wednesday's game with hamstring stiffness. Cristian Yelich missed his second game in a row with back soreness, but he is expected back on Friday. Jurickson Profar returned from the paternity leave list and should be back in the lineup on Friday. Jordan Hicks placed on the IL with a shoulder injury. Isaac Paredes hit on the field Tuesday and Wednesday and has been able to run at about 50% capacity. He's going to head to the team's spring training complex to continue his rehab. I still think it's a very long shot he plays in the regular season, but sounds like he'll be back for the playoffs at least. It's a big boost for the Astros. Also, this one, follow-up imaging on Josh Hader's shoulder showed healing, but he remains shut down from throwing. I think the hope is he can be back in the playoffs, but not a guarantee. And then Spencer Arrighetti was placed on the IL yesterday with elbow strain. Joe Espada acknowledged Thursday that is unlikely to lead to a return for Spencer Arrighetti this season.
I mean,
not surprising. There's
pitchers
3.5
spend
weeks
15 days on the IL. There's not many more left than that in the season. So.
There's 2025, I think 24, something like that.
Sounds close enough.
23. Let's say 23. And then Ryan Jeffers was removed from Thursday's game after taking a couple hits off his mask during the game. He presumably will be checked for a concussion, so something to keep an eye on for those of you setting your lineups this weekend. And we are going to be right back with some Scotty Doesn't Know, a little Week 25 preview, and finish up talking about Thursday's games. We'll be right back. And we are back on Fantasy Baseball today, and let's do a little Scotty Doesn't Know. And for those of you just joining us, I don't really know how this segment works. I'm just trying to stump Scott, I think, is basically the point, right? We got some interesting trivia.
It's better for everyone if I miss it because the clip is funny. But I will earnestly try not to.
Doesn't seem like you think it's funny.
No, it's funny.
All right. Seems like you're doing the it's very funny to me. I'm laughing about it. It's funny that you think I'm mad is what's funny.
People have been singing this song to me for 20 years or whenever Eurotrip came out.
And I only
saw Eurotrip like 3 or 4 years ago. So I didn't even have context for this song people were singing to me. And it's I mean, the context is, Matt
Damon performance. Great Matt Damon performance.
Sure.
All right. We've got 5 little bits of trivia. I focused on things I thought were interesting from the second half leaderboards. You can tell me if they're actually interesting, but we'll start with there are 3 shortstops with 10 home runs since the All-Star break. Can you name them?
3 shortstops. Like fantasy eligible shortstops, or true they play shortstop in the majors?
They are both fantasy eligible and primarily play
shortstops. So not Colson Montgomery.
He is primarily playing shortstop, isn't he?
I thought he was primarily playing there. Okay, so Colson Montgomery.
Colson Montgomery is leading shortstops Yeah, he's primarily played shortstop.
He
this
has?
year.
Okay, I thought he'd
320
mostly
innings to
been playing.
95 at third base.
So I didn't know that, but
And he
had
leads
a
all
lot of home
shortstops with, I believe it's 17 home runs since the All-Star break. Is that right? Did he get called up before the All-Star break?
He did.
Okay, so
did.
he's got a whole bunch. He hit his 17th home run since the All-Star break on Thursday night.
Okay. Another, I'm going to guess, is Willie Adames.
That was the one I was surprised by, but yes, he has 14.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got it right. Okay. Can I sweep it? Because this is a 3-parter here. Did the double-digit shortstops with double-digit home runs since the All-Star break, you're saying? Could
I feel
it be?
it's a guy we talked a lot about in like late April, early May, and haven't talked about as much, even though he's been awesome all year.
Trevor Story?
Not Trevor Story. Trevor Story has 8.
Does that mean you play the clip, or you're giving me more guesses?
Okay. I can play the clip. Are you ready? All right. I hope it's going to be a treat for the YouTube audience as well. All right, you ready?
Sure.
Doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
So I'm the one singing the song about Scotty doesn't know.
I know that doesn't. I put Scott's head on Matt Damon's body in the clip. I know it doesn't really work. Scotty is not Matt Damon. Matt Damon is the lead singer of the band, I guess. I don't know what his character's name is. But I just thought it would be a nice little treat to put your face on
Treat
him.
for the eyes and ears. So I pulled up my shortstop rankings just to give myself like a word bank here. I'm not seeing who else it could be.
He hasn't been like huge lately. He's just been steady, netty. Zach Neto, 10 home runs, 7 steals since the All-Star break, 14 for Willie Adames, and 17 for Colson Montgomery. I don't think there's room for 2 of those 3 in the top 12 for shortstop next year. Zach Neto's got to be a top 12 shortstop.
Zach Neto,
year, right?
yes, for sure. Willie Adames and Colson Montgomery, probably not. I can say that pretty confidently.
Now, if Colson Montgomery does gain third base eligibility for next season, let me see how far away he is from that. He needs 8 more appearances at third base. Do you think you could sneak him into your top
12 at third base?
At third base.
I don't think I will. Some people might. I could see him getting drafted in the top 12. But you and I both agree he's overperformed this year because it's pretty much been all home runs in an unrealistic pace. And sure, maybe he'll get better next year in other ways. He's got the pedigree, but I think I can come up with 12 third basemen that I'd rather bid on more, including Max Muncy, including Isaac Paredes, guys who've been out for a while because of injuries.
All right, let's move on to our second question. Who leads the majors in stolen bases at any position since the All-Star break? And this one is hilarious.
Hilarious. Is it Josh Naylor?
It is not Josh Naylor.
All right, you got to play the clip. That's how this works.
Okay, all right. Hold on.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
All right. Would you like to know who leads the majors in stolen bases since the All-Star
I thought
break?
I gave the most hilarious answer, but who is it?
Josh Naylor is tied for 5th with 12 next to Trey Turner and Corbin Carroll. That makes total sense. Number 4 and number 3 are Francisco Lindor and Chandler Simpson. And then
Simpson
tied for the lead, Jazz Chisholm with 16. That makes sense. He steals a lot of bases. Juan Soto has 16 steals in 42 games in the second half.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
It is.
I have no idea what to make of this.
That's the thing. And that's always the thing with middle of the order hitters who steal bases, even if they have a track record of it, but certainly if they don't. I mean, that's something.
And if they aren't fast.
Yes. Juan Soto is 15th percentile sprint speed. He's really slow.
Getting slower by the day.
Slow and getting slower. And yet he's been caught twice. So he's kind of mastered the art of base stealing for being slow. So he could keep doing this. but will he want to?
Yeah.
Because he's so valuable without that. Like just getting on base. Forget even power for Juan Soto. But, it invites more injuries, stealing bases. It probably doesn't feel good to flop on the ground at the end.
Yeah.
Especially since I don't know whether he slides head first or feet first.
I would never slide head first personally. I would never slide head first personally.
Yeah.
It's just for me. That's why I would.
And I have seen players talk about just not wanting to run anymore because they felt like what it brought to the team detracted too much from them personally. Whit Merrifield comes to mind. One year where his stolen bases decreased a lot, but that is especially true for middle of the order hitters because what they provide as base stealers just seems like too much risk for what you'd be giving up if it goes wrong, So if we could pencil in Juan Soto as a 25 steal guy, 30 steal guy, wherever he ends up next year. Oh, easily first. He's probably top 5, even in Roto. And of course, he is in points leagues regardless. He always has been. But for Roto specifically, batting average has become questionable for him. But if he makes up for it with these steals, then great. And then maybe he'll hit 3. I imagine at least some year with the Mets he'll hit 300. But I don't know how to approach that.
So
I
set
guess
the over-under at 14.5 next year. What are you taking?
Where do I take him?
No, 14.5 steals for Juan Soto. Are you taking the over or the under?
Oh, am I taking the over? I guess I'd lean over. I'd lean with the over.
Okay. That would be the second highest total of his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He may still 2 next year. I think when it comes to ranking him and drafting him, because there is that hope for a lot more batting average, you can kind of balance out the stolen base risk with that. At least psychologically, mentally, you could do that.
Whereas, if he doesn't do it, that's not to say that if he doesn't steal bases, he's going to hit for a higher batting average, but it's just...
But you just need him to do one or the other.
A lot of ways to succeed. And there's not a lot of ways for it to go really wrong. Like, even if it goes really wrong for Juan Soto, like 2022... he still had 93 runs, 27 homers. Like, he was still a must-start player, even though it was a very disappointing season. And
if he doesn't live up to being a first-round pick, it's because he performed like a second-rounder instead.
Probably. All right, moving on. 3 pitchers have at least 60 strikeouts since the All-Star break. Can you name them?
3 pitchers, 60 strikeouts since the All-Star break. Okay. 3 pitchers, 60 strikeouts since the All-Star break. Who's been getting a ton of strikeouts? Tarek Skubal seems like the free space.
You got the free space.
I'm going to say Garrett Crochet also.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
Not Garrett Crochet. That is a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
He has 58 strikeouts in 49 innings. It's not a bad guess, certainly, but he is 5th in strikeouts. Would you like to know the other 2?
Is Blake Snell one? No, he
Blake Snell is not one. No, he's not top 30.
Yeah, tell me the other 2.
So number 4, Christopher Sanchez at 59, just misses it. His teammate, Jesus Luzardo, 2nd in strikeouts with 60.
I never would have guessed him. Never.
I think the next one is just as surprising. At least Jesus Luzardo is an elite strikeout pitcher. Brian Wu is tied for 2nd in the majors since the All-Star break with 60 strikeouts in 55 innings. It's
workhorse Brian Wu.
Yeah, mostly a volume thing. He's averaging over 6 innings per start. Not a lot of guys doing that these days. He might be the only guy averaging 6 innings per start since the All-Star break, now that I look at it. Sandy Alcantara is. Trevor Rogers is. Okay, there's like 5 guys averaging 6 innings per start. But Brian Wu, strikeout rate ticking up a little bit since the All-Star break. He's very good. Is he a top 12 starting pitcher for 2026?
It'll be close if he isn't. I have a hard time answering these questions without having like mental Rolodex of the names to
Yeah.
narrow it down, But I currently have him ranked 13th the rest of season. It wouldn't take much to get him in the top 12 now. But you're going to have some pitchers coming back from injury. I think he just misses. I think he just misses top 12 for me.
Top 15 though?
Yeah, probably.
Top. No, the number 2 Mariners pitcher, right?
I would take Logan Gilbert over Wu next year, but I'm pretty sure I would take Wu over Kirby.
All right. Next question. Only one pitcher has more than 25 walks in the second half. Hint, he is a very fantasy relevant pitcher who has a 3.43 ERA in the second half despite the walks and less than a K per inning.
Who's been walking all those guys? Less than a K per inning, a lot of walks. Is it... I got a couple guesses here. Is it Ranger Suarez?
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
This was actually one who pitched on Thursday. He only walked 2, I believe, on Thursday, but only 3 strikeouts in 6 innings, and that's Carlos Rodon, who has gotten decent results in the second half. It's been rocky, but the ERA is not terrible. But, man, he's really fallen apart. He has, after Thursday's game, 28 walks in 50 2/3 innings, only 45 strikeouts. That is not good for Carlos Rodon, who was excellent in the first half of the season, but has really, really struggled, I think, in the second half. I don't know what to do with him for 2026. I was pretty optimistic about him coming into this season, and that's worked out really well. But his peripherals have, I guess they're fine. 384 FIP is okay, but not quite at the level of the 312 ERA. Obviously, the control has regressed badly in the second half. I don't know.
He'll be top 30. He'll be top 30 next
If he finishes with an ERA around 3, he's probably going to be a top 30, maybe top 24 pitcher. And I'm probably not going to be drafting Carlos Rodon very much if that's the case. He was like 45 coming into the season, and it was fine to take the flyer there. But given the injury history, given the inconsistent production, I think I'd rather have Jesus Luzardo than Carlos Rodon, at least at what I expect their prices to be. I will probably view them very similarly for 2026, and I assume Luzardo is going to be a lot cheaper.
I don't think so. I think they'll both be around 30th in the rankings. I expect Rodon will be higher, but you get much beyond 30. And I know there are some injured players like Spencer Schwellenbach, probably some others. Cole Reagans will move up beyond that. But, you get past, looking rest of season rankings now, you get past 30, you're into like, I've got the guys who recently returned from injury, Kyle Bradish, Shane Bieber there, Andrew Abbott's there, Merrill Kelly, ones who've continued to flounder like Jack Flaherty and Sonny Gray. Yeah. We're taking Rodon over all those guys and Luzardo over all those guys.
Bieber was not in that group, right?
I did mention Bieber.
I'd take Bieber over them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I think I would take Kyle Bradish.
Goes. Yeah.
I think I would take Kyle Bradish over them.
They're unique. That's unique. But
then you get
But Andrew Abbott. Let's say Andrew Abbott.
I'd probably take Luzardo and Rodon.
And Luzardo, and I think most everyone would.
What about Jacob Misiorowski and Chase Burns? I think you're taking
Burns, maybe. Burns, I probably do move ahead, but not Misiorowski. Misiorowski's really shown his warts here recently.
What about Trevor Rogers?
I would take him behind Rodon and Luzardo.
Okay. It's just the strikeouts?
Well, a general distrust. I mean, whatever distrust you have for Rodon, I think Rogers is deserving of more, right?
Okay. Let's go to the last one.
Do you disagree?
No, I think that's
Okay.
perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed by Trevor Rogers. I don't know how sustainable it is. It feels very Ranger Suarez-y to me, except he doesn't have the track record of Ranger Suarez.
By the way, Ranger Suarez, terrible guess for the walks in the second half. He had 3
I
walks in all
didn't
of
want
August.
I didn't want to point it out, but yeah, that was a bad one. All right, last one. So this one is now currently out of date. I'll give you, there are 2 pitchers with 12 saves in the second half of the season. One is Carlos Estevez, who got his 12th save since the All-Star break on Thursday. Who is the other one?
12 saves in the second half. I'm going to say it's got to be somebody obscure, right? Or else why would you bring it up?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Kenley Jansen.
Scotty should know, but
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
Raisel Iglesias.
Raisel Iglesias has 12 saves and a 2.57 ERA in the second half. He has really turned his season around. Strikeouts haven't quite been there, 20 and 21 innings. He's a free agent at the end of the season. Going to be interesting to see. I assume he lands somewhere where he gets to continue to be the starter or closer, but not necessarily a guarantee, I guess.
He might wind up right back in Atlanta. I don't think that would be a surprise at all.
Yeah, definitely a chance for that. But
he seems fine. He seems perfectly fine now, and that rough start he got off to, which contributed to the state of the Braves season.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there were a lot of 1-run games early in the year. But it's a distant memory now. He's been great.
All right, let's move on to the Week 25 preview. First up, the schedule. 20 teams have 6 games, 10 have 7. That's easy math right there. The Guardians, Rockies, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Mets, Phillies, Padres, Mariners, and Nationals all have 7 games on the schedule in Week 25. And unfortunately for the Rockies, those 7 games are all away from Coors Field. So start Hunter Goodman and nobody else, I guess. Which is not really that different from how you should approach the Rockies in most weeks, but there you go. Start or sit these 2 start pitchers this week, Scott. Yuri Perez, he's got the Nationals and the Tigers. No way, right?
It's funny because this is probably the ugliest 2-start pitcher slate of the season. Because
so to quote Homer Simpson, it's the ugliest 2-start pitcher slate of the season so far.
So far.
We are at that point because I think you said the same thing about last week too.
Well, last week's was limited. Last week's, it was a small number of 2-start pitchers. But there's 35 this week, even accounting for a lot of the 6-man rotations going on right now.
And a lot of TBAs right now.
35. Yuri Perez ranks 12th among them.
Yikes.
And yet he is in the bottom tier. So the bottom tier begins at 12 of 35.
Okay.
Meaning no thanks. And that's
23.
When we talked about Yuri
24.
Perez yesterday, I said, I don't see how you start him with as bad as 5 of his last 6 starts have been. And I'm sticking with that.
So I'm going to assume the same is true for Aaron Nola, who's got the Mets and Royals, Sean Manaea, who's got the Phillies
I said otherwise
and
for
Rangers.
Nola. I said I probably would have him as a start in points leagues, but I've changed my mind. It's no thanks for me on him.
Jose Barrios versus the Astros versus Baltimore. You starting him?
Just too many bad starts.
And then Nick Lodolo, probably leading start, right?
Yeah. He falls a little short of must start since this is his second back from injury and he'll be recovering from illness.
Yeah.
But I think because he lines up for 2, most everybody's going to use Nick Lodolo.
All right, and then some 2-star pitchers to add and stream. Luis Morales, we've liked what we've seen from him. Strikeout rate has increased in, I think, 4 straight starts now. He's got the Red Sox and Cincinnati, both at home. Really tough place to pitch, but he's pitched well enough that I think you can go with it.
Yep.
Cade
With 2
Cavalli.
starts, got to go with it.
Cade Cavalli, exceptional matchups at Miami versus Pittsburgh. And And then Nabil Chrismot, who had some like interesting minor league numbers. He's got great matchups at San Francisco, at Minnesota. I assume that's why you're going with. I always get those confused.
Nobody's ever called them Minneapolis before.
I know.
They're Minnesota in all the major sports.
Wouldn't it make more sense for the Twins to be Minneapolis rather than Minnesota, though? They're representing the Twin Cities. You didn't think about that, did you?
I mean, I don't know all the politics behind
two
why they're
guys
called
shaking
Minnesota. Like, why is a team named after a state rather than a city? I know it became an issue when the Marlins wanted a stadium partly funded by the city of Miami, so they became the Miami Marlins instead of the Florida Marlins. I don't know the Twins' history with that.
You know, that reminds me, I always hate when a university is like Miami State University. That doesn't make any sense, all right? That is not a state. Miami State University is not a real, but whatever. There are lots of them out there. I can't think of any right now, but, you know.
Getting back to Nabil Chrismot at San Francisco, at Minnesota, he's 3% rostered in fantasy, and he's gotten a ton of ground balls. Like, I think he's very useful. It is a recommendation more for points leagues because I could see him hurting your whip and roto and probably not going to give you a big strikeout number even with 2 starts. But I think if you got to dig really deep, Chrismot is a good choice.
All right, 1-start streamers. Kyle Bradish gets the Pirates. Peyton Tolley gets the A's at Sacramento. He's a big ground ball guy, right? So that should work out for him.
Tolley. Is he a big? I know he's a big strikeout guy. That's one of those recommendations, and I've talked about it a lot lately. Just how impressed I was by Peyton Tolley. Like, I don't even care what the matchup is. It's not the greatest matchup at the Athletics, but who actually performed really well against left-handers. I was surprised to see. But I would start Peyton Tolley, particularly in this context where comparing him to other potential waiver claims, like. He shouldn't be a potential waiver claim, so he's going to be near the top of the list.
All right, Ian Seymour at the White Sox, Zebby Matthews at the Angels, Emmett Sheehan looks like he's going to get the Rockies on the road. That's great. Tyler Wells versus the Pirates, Parker Messick versus the White Sox. We've got the best hitter matchups. You wanted to add anything?
Well, so first of all, Tolley is actually a fly ball pitcher, but again, he's a strikeout pitcher. That's the main appeal here. Zebby Matthews, we talked about how good he looked in his previous couple turns, mixing in a sinker a little bit more. And the Angels are so strikeout prone, most strikeout prone team. I think it'll go well for Matthews. Emmett Sheehan against the Rockies.
I mean, I love the matchup. It's just, is he going to make the start?
I almost didn't put him on here because, of course, yes, it's a great matchup, and he has looked great lately, getting a ton of whiffs.
Did he have 10 strikeouts at Coors Field last week?
Was that at Coors? It was 10
so.
Strikeouts in 7 innings. I don't remember where it was or who it was against. And they got 21 whiffs in his most recent start. But that was a spot start. Like, he found out that day he was starting because Ohtani was ill, right?
Yes.
And so, like, Sheehan, the Dodgers don't really have a rotation right now. They have 7 guys that they decide who's starting. So it makes it really hard to project. In theory, Sheehan's turn lines up for the Rockies on the road, but the reason he's so low on this list, only 7th on this list, is because you can't be sure he's actually going to make that start.
That's a good point. All right, the best hitter matchups. The Mariners have 7 games. Cardinals and Angels. Guardians have 7 games. Royals and White Sox. No Seth Lugo, although at this point that might actually help the Royals pitching staff. The Royals, 7 games at Cleveland, at Philadelphia. The Marlins get the Nationals and Tigers. And the Padres have 7 versus the Reds and Rockies. Worst hitter matchups, Cardinals get the Giants and Brewers. Diamondbacks get the Giants and Twins. Athletics get the Red Sox and Reds. The Rangers get the Brewers and Mets. And the Red Sox get the A's and Yankees. Sleeper hitters, Dalton Varsho, Jorge Polanco, Royce Lewis, Luis Garcia, Kyle Manzardo, who I'll just mention it now. Kyle Manzardo has started the last 3 games against lefties. It seems like the Guardians are actually going to give him a chance, and he has held his own. 715 OPS against lefties. That's not great, but it's not like we need to bench this guy immediately. And it's a 353 xWOBA. It's a very small sample size, but the underlying numbers are actually very good for Kyle Manzardo against lefties. So
it's not
that's
much
something
of
to
an
keep an eye
issue
on.
this week because they're scheduled to face 5 righties, and as you already mentioned, second best matchups for the Guardians this week.
But that's something to keep an eye on for 2026. If he's playing every day against lefties and holds his own, I don't know if that happening in September is something that people are going to exactly take advantage of or recognize. And so Kyle Manzardo could have some serious sleeper potential for 2026 if he looks like a legit everyday player. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. Isaac Collins, Harrison Bader, Otto Lopez, Trevor Larnach, and Matt Wallner. I know you wanted to talk about the Twins guys, right?
So the Twins just missed the top 5 matchups. They play all 6 of their games are scheduled to be against righties. So that works to the advantage of Larnach and Wallner. Larnach has been especially hot lately. He had a 3-hit game here Thursday. That was his 5th multi-hit game and 6th. He's batting .542 during that stretch, but with only 1 extra base hit, a double, which is why Larnach doesn't rank higher on this list. But, he's hit a decent number of home runs this year. I think with the right matchups, he can be very useful. Wallner, of course, a sink or swim kind of guy. And he had fallen into a slump again after performing well in August, but he just homered here on Thursday. So hopefully he's snapping out of it in time to take advantage of these matchups. A couple other things I wanted to mention here. Dalton Varsho at the top, even though his matchups aren't anything special, 45% rostered for a guy with an OPS over 900 on the year, an OPS over 1,000 against righties. That's 5 of what the Blue Jays are scheduled to face this week. I feel like Varsho is close to must start, and he's available in more than half of leagues. So that's why he's so high on the list. Also, Harrison Bader has started to play every day for the Phillies. He's been great with them. 310 batting average, 855 OPS so far. Gets decent power because he elevates to his pull side well and isn't a 0 for steals either. The Phillies matchup's pretty good. Only 18% rostered. A notable one there. I also wanted to kind of preface this whole segment. I guess it's too late to preface it, but I'll wrap it up by saying this. I have changed the threshold for these final 3 weeks from 80% rostered to qualify for these lists to 75 because I'm finding, given how late we are in the year, given the roster rates are changing slower than they usually do, and some really obvious plays are getting stuck in that 75 to 80% rostership range. I'll go ahead and mention guys who would have made these lists very high in these lists if they're less than 80, but they're over 75, so I left them out. And those guys are Jose Soriano, who faces the Twins, and then on the hitting side, Joe Adell, Jacob Marcy, and Luke Keeschel, who all have great matchups this week. Obvious starts. Too obvious, I feel like, to actually include among the sleeper hitters.
All right, let's finish up with some more Thursday talk. Paul Skeens, 6 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts. I saw a stat yesterday that the Pirates lead the majors in shutouts this season, and they almost had a shutout again today against the Dodgers. I think they scored in the 9th inning, or they would have continued to add to their league lead in shutouts, which is just incredible that they're so bad. Paul Skeens is the first pitcher since Bob Shadowball Lee to open his career with a sub 2.0 ERA in consecutive seasons. If he holds on to this, that's minimum 130 innings. That is not a real nickname for Bob Lee. I just made that up. He pitched in 1964, 1965. If you want to just go with starters who have opened their career with sub 2 ERAs in consecutive seasons, you have to go all the way back to 1908, 1909, when, I don't know, some dude in the Taft administration was doing it. So, like, I think Paul Skeens is the number 3 SP for 2026 because the wins and strikeouts upside is not the same as it is for Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet. I also can't really make a case against him as the SP1 if you wanted to do it. And I think there's just a clear top 3 and then a big teardrop. I think the top 3 is absolutely clear, and then after that, it's kind of wide open.
4 might be, you could go with a number of candidates. Logan Gilbert, we mentioned earlier,
I think
is I think in that discussion, which may raise an eyebrow. I think Chris Sale's still going to be in that discussion just because there's no other obvious contender who can give you those Cy Young numbers when healthy.
You can make a case for Hunter Brown. You can make a case for. I don't know if Yoshinobu Yamamoto has
I think he's in
the volume. I just don't think he has the volume. But yeah, I think it's pretty wide open after that top three. But the top three is crystal clear. Freddie Peralta had another solid start, 8 strikeouts and 5 shutout innings. 5 straight scoreless outings for him, 35 strikeouts to 12 walks and 28 innings in that stretch. 2.50 ERA, 3.41 xERA. He is on pace to throw his most innings ever, might reach 180 for the first time. Is Freddie Peralta a top 20 starting pitcher next season?
I think that's the tipping point. So it makes it hard to say for sure yes or no. I have him 19th rest of season. Probably he'll be a little after 20 once you get some of those other names in there, but it's a fair place to put it.
I think the thing for me with Freddie Peralta is if he's a top 15 starting pitcher in the rankings or ADP, I'm out.
Yeah.
If he's 24, I think I'm in.
That's where I think he'll be.
I think people are not going to buy into it too much.
Well, it's not even so much that. It's just there are more spectacular options that are going to come in with a clean bill of health and just push them down.
Yeah,
that's what I think it is. Yeah.
Ranger Suarez, no second half slide here. 6 shutout innings, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks against the Brewers. It did look like he was hitting that wall. I think his first 5 starts in the second half, he had 21 runs allowed in 28 2/3 innings, and it was like, here we go again. Since then, 3 runs allowed in his past 4 starts, 27 strikeouts to 24 in 24 2/3 innings with 3 walks. Trying to think ahead to next season. I feel like Ranger Suarez is going to be a very controversial player. I'm going to guess he goes around SP 40. Is that too low? Am I not giving him enough credit?
Unless you're thinking he collapses in September, I think it's too low.
Okay. I mean, look, he has a 3.22 ERA and a 3.42 FIP over the past 5 seasons.
Yeah.
It's just we know how thin the margin for error is. We know that he's not durable. We know he's 30, and we know he doesn't get strikeouts. So it's kind of like even his whip is not great. Usually, I think it's 120 or so over the past 5 years. So it's like, it's kind of just a good ERA.
It's not that he's the same kind of pitcher, but it feels like he'd be valued sort of like Shota Imanaga would be valued. And that's probably behind that Carlos Rodon, Jesus Luzardo level we were talking about earlier, but I don't think it's that far behind that. So it may, I would guess they'll both rank in the upper 30s. So that gets close to the 40-50 range you're talking about, but more like 40 than 50.
And then Blake Snell, I have no idea, dude. I have no idea.
It's mostly been good.
His velocity was very down in his previous start. It was back up a little bit, but still down for the season as a whole in this start. 18 whiffs, a lot of weak contact. He gave up 5 earned runs. It seems like bad luck. I have no idea, 1, where he's going to be drafted, and 2, where I'm going to rank him. I assume that we're going to do the yo-yo thing where everybody was way too high on him this season, so now everybody's like, I'm never drafting Blake Snell again, and he's going to be way too low. And if it's like 20, 25, that's probably okay, right? I mean, he was like 8 this year.
The sample is small enough, and I kind of say this for every player, but in Snell's case, especially because of the sample, the story's still being written.
Yeah.
If he has a 1 ERA and 12 K per 9 in September and keeps doing that throughout the postseason, and he might be top 12 next year, but more likely
I'm never doing that.
More likely he'll be top 20-ish.
Okay. Let's do some hitters. Kyle Teal, 3 for 5, 4 RBI, 3 runs. I thought about him as my player of the night. Hit another home run. Are we just underrating this dude? He's up to a 293 average, 390 on base, 440 slug as a rookie. And the underlying numbers, at least at last check, totally back it up.
Well, I don't know who you mean by we. You love your royal we.
The royal we. Well, in this case,
The we who plays for the Royals?
the podcast, I think.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. We've
little
talked about
more-
him a lot lately, and mostly
Yeah.
in a favorable light. I think he is outshined by some of the other rookies that have performed well. I mean, there have been so many. Drake Baldwin, Agustin Ramirez. I like both of them. Maybe also Samuel Basayo. Obviously hasn't done much yet, but he's arguably the best hitting prospect in
I think the
baseball.
skill set's better, yeah.
Yeah. So Teal, I don't think can live up to them, but like normally we'd be really excited about a rookie as good as him. He's done about as much as he could possibly do to put himself in a good position for 2024. It's just that there are
Everybody
limits
else
to the
has too.
upside. Yeah.
All right, Trent Grisham. I mean, hit his 30th home run of the season on Thursday. That's incredible. His his expected home runs on StatCast is like 22 or 23. So there's been some good luck. I think what his outlook for 2026 is going to look like is going to depend a lot on where he lands, because he is a free agent. Have a walk year, Trent Grisham. Incredible stuff. He was looking like he was destined for a bunch of one-year contracts to run out his career as a fourth outfielder. And now, is Trent Grisham going to get like $80 million this offseason? $100 million?
It's hard to say. He'll get a multi-year deal.
Yeah,
That's
he
probably
can play a
about
passable.
right. Yeah. He's not as good of a
field.
defender as he used to be. He used to be a great defender,
He's only 28.
but he has good on base skills. The Power's playing like it's not just like he's exploiting Yankee Stadium. In fact, I think he's hit for more power on the road.
I think it's a little bit of that, but I'm not saying it's a fluke. I just think, who would you rather have for 2026, Trent Grisham or Joe Adele?
Better pull air rate, much better strikeout rate. I would rather have Adele, except maybe in points leagues. It kind of depends where Grisham winds up, though.
Yeah, is he
If
going to
he's
be
back
a
with the
part-time player
Yankees,
again?
then great. What was that?
Is he a part-time player again, though? He's been a full-time
Probably
player
not.
in the second half.
Like if he gets the kind of contract you're talking about, he won't be a part-time player.
That's fair. Mookie Betts hit a home run that was the one to break the shutout, I believe, for the Pirates. He's been better lately. I still don't really know what to
Much
make.
better.
His ex-WOBA over the past 100 plate appearances is 388. That's excellent.
So the numbers I've written down here is since August 5th. So that's a 26-game stretch. Mookie Betts has hit 327 with 4 home runs, 12 walks to just 6 strikeouts, again in 26 games.
Bunch of multi-hit games in there.
But the most notable, I think, during that 26-game stretch, 90-mile-per-hour average exit velocity, when for the year it's 88.7. 88.7 suggested that Mookie Betts was on the decline. Like he's never been like a huge exit velocity guy, but 88.7 is lower than we're used to seeing from him. 90 is more, that's about right. That's more like the Mookie Betts we're used to seeing. And because obviously his whole season has been tainted by that illness he had at the start with the trip to Japan, and he lost a bunch of weight, couldn't keep anything down for a week. It's a viable explanation for why he just didn't have the same juice. It's not conclusive by any means, but it's at least a reasonable theory. And then, now that he's had this since the start of August, where he has hit the ball harder, it kind of tips the scales more to the side of, oh, maybe Betts isn't aging out. Maybe he just was kind of physically worn down before the season even started and is only now looking like himself again. So I don't know. Reports of his demise may have been exaggerated.
We'll see what the postseason looks like, especially. I'm thinking it's like a top 50 pick rather than a top 25 pick for 2026.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll be top 25 unless he just goes completely bonkers from here on out. But top 50, he's put himself back in the top 50 conversation.
There's going to be a ton of runs, good batting average. Still feel very good about that stuff. And then Yordan Alvarez, 3 for 4 with a home run, a double, and all of a sudden his OPS for the season is up over 800. It was 646 when he went on the IL. He has 11 hits in his past 5 games. Yordan Alvarez is awesome. I'm probably going to rank him as a second-round pick next year. That might be too high given his injuries, but this year's injury I'm not going to hold against him.
I don't think the upside has changed. I think people will naturally be hesitant to buy into him, so you won't have to get him in round 2. That's my hunch.
I think Junior Caminero is going to go ahead of Yordan Alvarez. I'm not sure he should.
I'm sure he should. I'm not sure he'll have the better season next year, but nobody's sure of that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to rank Yordan Alvarez too high, and everybody's going to yell at me. All right, before we go, pitching leftovers, Cristian Javier. He doesn't have the slider or the sweeper yet. That seems to be the biggest thing. He was like an 85-90% fastball sweeper guy, and he's throwing it about 15% of the time so far this season, and I feel like you see that sometimes when guys are coming back from Tommy John surgery. He just doesn't have the feel for it. Hopefully a healthy offseason.
I'm not sure he has the control either. Overall, I'm encouraged, but you got to play the matchups for sure with Javier.
Yeah. And then Noah Cameron, he's given up 9 earned runs over his past 2 starts, 4.18 ERA since the All-Star break, only 30 strikeouts in 43 innings. I think he's just a guy. I've made some Bowden Francis comparisons, and I feel like that's what we're seeing.
Well, this start, the final line wasn't great. He got a ton of whiffs, the second most whiffs he's gotten all year. And everything, the velocity was up 1 to 2 on everything. So that was interesting enough to mention, but not interesting enough that I got to get Noah Cameron back in my lineup.
All right, and then the call to the bullpen. Yohan Duran got his 26th save. Carlos Estevez got his 37th. He's going to have 40 saves this year. What a pick he ended up being. And then Colin Holderman got the save for the Pirates with Dennis Santana unavailable. He will be back to being the Holderman tomorrow. He was the saver man today. To stream or not to stream for the weekend, Friday, we've got Javier Assad versus the Nationals, Dean Kramer versus the Dodgers, Ian Seymour versus the Guardians, Michael McGreevy versus the Giants, Jose Soriano versus the A's, Peyton Tolley versus the Diamondbacks, and Eduardo Rodriguez versus the Red Sox. Yesterday, I believe we said Seymour, Soriano, and Tolley, not in that order, and I stick with those 3.
The order I'd actually start them is, I think, Tolley, Seymour, and Soriano.
Okay. All right, Saturday, we've got some guys who probably shouldn't, well, I don't know. Some guys who have been non-streamers at some point in their careers, but are currently in the streaming range of roster rates. Shane Baz gets the Guardians, Bryce Miller at the Braves, Martin Perez at the Tigers, Bailey Ober at the Royals, Stephen Kolek versus the Twins, and Brandon Pfaadt versus the Red Sox. I mean, Baz and Miller are clearly a step up in talent from the rest of these guys. They're just not pitching like it right now. I know Baz, I think his most recent start was good, but I have no faith in that.
Well, it's a great matchup against the Guardians, and Miller's against the Braves isn't right now. They've been one of the best offenses in the second half, so I think I'd leave Miller out. But Ober at the Royals is, and there have been some good signs, some not so good signs. I think there's enough reason for encouragement that if you're really, if you're participating in this segment, you need streamers for whatever reason. I think Ober's one of your best bets for Saturday. It's not a blanket endorsement of Ober. It's just the best of bad options.
All right, and then on Sunday, we got Parker Messick at the Rays, Tomoyuki Sagano versus the Dodgers, Charlie Morton versus the White Sox, Brandon Sproat making his Major League debut at the Reds, Andrew Alvarez at the Cubs, Luis Garcia at the Rangers, Luis Morales at the Angels, and Mitch Ferris versus the A's. I think Sproat is fine. I think Morton is fine, and I like Messick.
I think the best is Luis Morales at the Angels.
I missed that one.
Yeah, that's the one I can give a full-throated endorsement to. If you're participating in this segment, you need a streamer for some reason, then I think you could consider Sproat, Morton, and Messick, but I don't have nearly as much confidence in them.
All right, and that's going to do it for Fantasy Baseball today. We will see you on Sunday night, Monday morning when Frank will be back. Take care. Bye-bye.